The cameras flashed, illuminating the pristine, completely silent gates of a Hidden Hills mansion. The crowd of paparazzi just froze. And just like that, Hollywood had a totally new obsession. Kylie Jenner's own housekeeper just took her to court.
Which is just a wild headline.
It really is. Welcome to Star Scoop Report. Join us as we uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals. From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
And, it is exactly the kind of headline that completely shatters that carefully curated illusion of celebrity life.
Oh, 100%.
Because one minute you're looking at these flawless Instagram grids of a billionaire's estate, and then the next you are confronted with this really stark, profoundly disturbing stack of legal complaints.
Right.
It forces us to reconcile the glamorous aesthetic with the gritty reality of what it actually takes to maintain it.
Exactly. And that is the mission of today's deep dive for you. We want to cut entirely through the superficial gossip, look past the paparazzi lenses, and lay out exactly what allegedly went wrong behind the closed doors of that Hidden Hills mansion.
Yeah, because there's a lot to get through.
There is. We have a massive stack of sources to guide us today. We're looking at official, densely packed legal documents of the LA County Superior Court.
Filed on April 17, 2026.
Right, April 17th. And we are cross-referencing breaking reports from TMZ, Page 6, Rate Online, Court TV. Plus, we're looking at real-time public reactions straight from Reddit.
Yeah, we are going to examine the entire timeline, the specific allegations, the defense strategy, and what this actually means for celebrity accountability in the modern influencer economy.
And that's not even the wildest part. Later on, wait until you hear the shocking twist regarding a certain A-list actor's mansion that nobody saw coming.
I am still trying to wrap my head around that part.
Me too. But first, let's step behind those immaculate mansion gates. Angelica Vasquez has officially filed a lawsuit against Kylie Jenner Inc., TriStar Services LLC, and La Maison Family Services LLC.
Quite a list.
It is. And the core claim here is severe harassment and discrimination.
Right. And to really understand how this devolved, we have to look at the timeline and the mechanics of the household itself.
Okay, let's unpack this. Walk us through it.
So, according to the court documents, Vasquez was hired on September 10th, 2024.
Okay.
And she initially started working at Jenner's Beverly Hills residence. But just 7 days later...
Wow, just a week.
Literally a week later, she was abruptly transferred to the Hidden Hills residence. And that transfer is the crucial catalyst here.
Because of who she was reporting to, right?
Exactly. That is where she began reporting to the head housekeeper, a woman named Patsy, and another supervisor named Elsie.
Right. And from the moment she arrived at that Hidden Hills property, the lawsuit alleges a completely hostile environment.
Yeah, it sounds awful.
The documents state that Vasquez, who is a Catholic woman from El Salvador, was subjected to relentless, targeted abuse.
And we need to be really clear here for everyone listening. We aren't just talking about a demanding boss who, wants the floors exceptionally clean.
No, not at all. She was allegedly assigned the absolute worst, most undesirable tasks, completely excluded from the rest of the housekeeping team.
Just isolated.
Yeah, isolated and publicly belittled in front of her colleagues.
It was reportedly an attack on her identity. The complaint details that her accent was frequently mocked. They demanded to inspect her personal phone.
Which is a huge overstep.
Massive. Supervisors allegedly snapped their fingers at her and shouted at her. And it crossed over into blatant discrimination regarding her religion and national origin.
Yeah, the quotes pulled directly from the lawsuit are just staggering. I mean, staff allegedly told her point blank that Catholics are horrible people.
That is just,
And they intimidated her regarding her immigration status, heavily implying she could be deported, while the supervisors, emphasized their own status as U.S. citizens.
It's pure intimidation.
Okay, so let's unpack this a bit more. Because when you hear a story like this, your first thought is, how does the person whose name is on the deed to the house not know this is happening in their own home?
Right. The billionaire CEO question.
Yeah. I'm trying to wrap my head around how you can be the CEO, the homeowner, the namesake of the company, and be completely insulated from the culture of your own kitchen. I mean, if you are the boss, aren't you still legally and morally responsible for the culture of your workplace?
Well, what's fascinating here is how the law actually views the modern celebrity household. And it's not the way you or I view a typical home.
How so?
You see that reflected in who Vasquez is actually suing. She isn't just suing Kylie Jenner, the individual. She's suing Kylie Jenner Inc., TriStar Services, and La Maison Family Services.
Those layered corporate entities.
Exactly. For the ultra-wealthy, a house operates through what is essentially a family office structure. Think of it like a submarine designed with watertight compartments.
Okay, so if one section floods, the whole ship doesn't sink.
Exactly that. By outsourcing household management, payroll, HR, all of it to third-party LLCs, ultra-wealthy individuals create this legal and financial buffer.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, under the California Fair Employment and Housing Act, the FEA employers are strictly required to protect their employees from discrimination, harassment, and retaliation.
Right.
But if the official employer on paper is TriStar Services, the legal liability hits that watertight compartment first, theoretically protecting Kylie's personal assets.
But the lawsuit is still naming her.
Yes. However, the lawsuit argues that these entities, and Jenner, by extension as the ultimate principal, failed to address the grievances. They allowed this toxic environment to just fester.
It is a stark reminder to you listening that these aren't just homes. They're sprawling, complex workplaces with HR departments, middle management, and apparently severe institutional failures.
Definitely.
And hey, if you're loving these Hollywood twists and these deep dives into the industry's hidden mechanisms, make sure you subscribe. We've got even crazier stories ahead.
Oh, we do.
Because the hostile environment at the Hidden Hills house was just the beginning. Wait till you hear what came next and where exactly she was allegedly forced to work for free.
Yeah, the situation allegedly reached a boiling point in late 2024 and early 2025. And it's really important to note that Vasquez didn't just suffer in silence.
No, she tried to do something about it.
Exactly. According to the complaint, she actively tried to utilize the very HR structures we were just talking about. In November 2024, she had a formal meeting with supervisors to complain about the treatment.
And how did that go?
Well, instead of an intervention, she claims Patsy and Elsie mocked her, interrupted her, and entirely dismissed her concerns.
That is so frustrating.
It gets worse. She later discovered that the meeting had been secretly recorded without her permission.
Which, beyond being a massive violation of trust, is a huge legal issue in California. I mean, California is a two-party consent state. Can you explain what that actually means for the supervisors in this context?
Absolutely. Under California Penal Code Section 632, it is entirely illegal to record a confidential communication without the consent of all parties involved.
So you can't just secretly tape a meeting to use against someone later.
Right. This isn't just a matter of the recording being inadmissible in a civil court proceeding. It's an actionable offense on its own.
Wow.
It can open the individuals up to separate civil damages and, theoretically, even criminal misdemeanor charges.
That is wild.
It's a severe escalation of the hostile work environment because it shifts from verbal harassment into alleged illegal surveillance of an MAE who is, simply trying to report abuse.
And the escalation doesn't stop there. The lawsuit alleges it turns physical.
Yeah.
By March 2025, the tension completely snaps. Vasquez claims a supervisor actually threw clothes hangers at her feet while aggressively reprimanding her.
Just completely unacceptable behavior.
Totally. So we've gone from emotional abuse and illegal recording to physical hostility.
And alongside that harassment, the lawsuit details concrete systemic labor violations. Vasquez is seeking compensation for unpaid wages.
Right.
The complaint alleges she was denied legally required meal and rest periods, and crucially, she was not reimbursed for mileage and transportation expenses.
Which is a big deal in California.
A very big deal. Historically, domestic workers were entirely excluded from foundational labor laws like the Fair Labor Standards Act. California has done a lot to patch those historical gaps, but as we see here, enforcement within the closed ecosystem of a private estate remains incredibly difficult.
It's like a world of its own.
Exactly. And that specific detail about transportation leads to one of the most revealing allegations in the entire filing regarding boundary erosion.
Yes. Here's where it gets really interesting, because the labor violations allegedly spread way beyond Kylie's property lines.
Way beyond.
The lawsuit claims that Vasquez was sent across the city to clean the Los Angeles residence of Timothée Chalamet, Kylie's partner.
Yep.
And she was sent there without any pay for those hours and without any reimbursement for the transportation to get there.
It's hard to believe.
It really is. I have to push back here on the logistics of this. It's one thing to have a toxic middle manager in your house bullying staff, but sending your staff to your boyfriend's mansion for free.
Right.
How does a billionaire's sophisticated multi-million-dollar payroll system just miss that? I mean, how does that even happen?
Well, it comes down to exactly how domestic labor is often structured and the concept of boundary erosion.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Unlike a warehouse worker who clocks in and out at a terminal for strict hourly pay, domestic staff in ultra-wealthy homes are often on daily rates, salaries, or retainers.
Ah, nice.
Because the workplace is someone's personal home, the line between professional employment and personal favor dissolves.
So they just blur together.
Exactly.
Mhm.
The employer, or the LLC managers, begin to view the employee not as a contracted worker with a specific location scope, but as a retained resource. A resource to be deployed wherever the principal needs them. Like, hey, we pay you anyway, so go over there today.
Precisely. The payroll system didn't necessarily miss it. Rather, the culture of the household likely assumed that since they were paying for her time generally, they could dictate where that time was spent. They were completely ignoring the legal requirements for separate site pay and mileage reimbursement.
The boundaries just completely evaporate, and the human cost of that evaporation is devastating.
Completely. The lawsuit documents that Vasquez developed severe anxiety and symptoms consistent with post-traumatic stress disorder.
That is so sad.
The psychological toll of being isolated, mocked for your heritage, illegally recorded, and subjected to physical intimidation by your supervisors, it's profound.
Yeah, nobody should have to deal with that.
By July 2025, she had to take a formal medical leave. And ultimately, with her complaints allegedly unaddressed and the environment remaining toxic, she felt she had no choice but to resign in August of 2025.
It's a tragic trajectory for someone who just showed up to do their job and navigate an impossibly complex corporate household.
Later in the deep dive, we'll talk about the shocking twist regarding Kylie's past that nobody saw coming. Because it isn't her first time in the hot seat.
At all.
But to understand the full scope of this story right now, we have to look at how the defense is positioning itself and, crucially, what the public reaction is.
Right.
While Kylie herself hasn't released a direct public statement, the defense's narrative is already leaking out.
Yes. TMZ reported that sources familiar with Kylie's household are pushing back aggressively.
What are they saying?
They are characterizing Vasquez as a junior employee and claiming that she had significant, quote, attendance issues alongside other alleged workplace performance concerns.
Interesting.
Yeah, they are essentially painting a picture of a disgruntled employee who simply wasn't showing up to do the work.
Okay, I have to pause on that TMZ leak. When they claim she had attendance issues, couldn't that simply be a trauma response from an employee avoiding a workplace that gave her PTSD?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, if I had PTSD from my supervisors throwing hangers at me, secretly recording my HR meetings, and mocking my religion, I'd probably have attendance issues too. I'd be terrified to walk through those gates.
That is a highly pertinent observation. And it's exactly the kind of counter-argument Vasquez's legal team is likely to make in court.
Right.
The attendance issues could very well be documented proof of the hostile environment's impact on her ability to function, rather than proof of her incompetence.
That makes a lot of sense.
And legally, we should note that the lawsuit does not explicitly accuse Kylie Jenner of directly uttering these discriminatory remarks or throwing the hangers herself.
Okay.
The core of the legal claim against her is negligence. The failure to oversee the LLCs she employed, the failure to address the complaints, and the failure to provide a safe working environment.
Wait, I want to connect some dots here, because looking through our source stack, this isn't an isolated incident for her brand, is it?
No, it really isn't.
In September 2023, Kylie Jenner Inc. was sued by a model named Yerlides Sasha Palma. She's sued for a staggering $120,000 over late pay for photo shoots.
Right, I remember that.
And Kylie's lawyers fought back, claiming Palma wasn't a print shoot employee as defined by the labor code, basically trying to use a technicality to dismiss it.
And wasn't there also a separate issue with her cosmetics factories?
You've hit on the exact pattern. Beyond the direct lawsuits, there have been past reports from workers speaking out to Radar Online about alleged horrific conditions at a manufacturing facility connected to her cosmetics business.
Wow.
They described degrading treatment and hyper-strict rules on the factory floor.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, Kylie isn't accused of directly managing the factory floor, and she isn't accused of directly throwing the hangers in the Hidden Hills house.
Right.
And she probably didn't personally handle the payroll for the model. But a very clear pattern begins to emerge here. Localized, third-party management failing the workers, and the overarching brand failing to intervene. Precisely. And that brings us perfectly to the court of public opinion. We spent some time analyzing the real-time reactions on the Kardashians Reddit thread, and it is a fiercely divided debate.
It really is.
It actually reveals a lot about the psychology of how we view celebrity accountability.
It's fascinating. On one side of the thread, you have users vehemently defending Kylie. One user pointed out that Kylie isn't sitting there counting pennies and figuring out how to cheat her staff out of mileage money. They argue there are probably 5 layers of corporate management between Kylie's bank account and the person cutting the checks, and she likely has no idea what the day-to-day dynamic is between the housekeepers.
Right. It is the classic corporate insulation defense. But what's interesting is why the public makes this defense for her.
Why do you think that is?
It ties into parasocial relationships. When fans invest years into following a celebrity, buying their cosmetics, defending them online, they begin to identify with the brand.
That makes total sense.
An attack on the brand's ethics feels like a personal attack on the fan's own judgment. So they instinctively adopt the legal defense that the enterprise is simply too large for the figurehead to know every detail as a way to protect their own parasocial investment.
That is so true. But then you have the completely opposite side of the thread, holding her strictly accountable.
Yeah, they do not hold back.
Another user argued that as the homeowner and employer, it is her fundamental duty to vet her staff and ensure a safe environment.
Right.
They wrote that even if she isn't involved in the day-to-day, it's her responsibility to vet the LLCs she hires. If her supervisors are harassing people, she needs to fire them, pay the damages, and fix the system. So what does this all mean for the future of these celebrity empires?
This raises an important question about the limits of that submarine strategy of insulation we talked about earlier.
Right, the watertight compartments.
When you are a billionaire, you surround yourself with LLCs to handle the granular details of your life. You outsource to legally insulate yourself from direct financial liability. But what these legal shields absolutely cannot protect is the brand itself.
Because the court of public opinion doesn't care about watertight compartments.
Exactly. You might legally distance yourself, but you expose your brand to massive reputational damage when those third-party companies fail your workers.
Right.
In the eyes of the consumer, the public, and the Reddit threads, the nuance of which LLC technically signed the paycheck doesn't matter one bit. It happened in Kylie's house, under her roof. The legal shield becomes a reputational liability.
It's the ultimate double-edged sword of outsourcing your life. So to bring this all together for you, we've traced a journey that started behind the glamorous paparazzi flash gates of a Beverly Hills mansion, only to uncover a reality that is allegedly much darker and deeply bureaucratic.
It's a lot to process.
We looked at Angelica Vasquez's claims of severe religious and national origin discrimination at the hands of household supervisors. We explored the shocking escalation involving throne hangers, the legal ramifications of secretly recorded meetings, and the boundary-blurring unpaid labor at Timothée Chalamet's house. And finally, we examined the fierce public debate over whether a billionaire can truly claim ignorance about the suffering happening in their own home.
It all culminates in a severe reality check for the modern era of fame. As the influencer economy continues to grow, our favorite celebrities are no longer just entertainers, they are sprawling, multi-million-dollar corporations.
Exactly.
And here is a thought for you to take away. At what point does the "I didn't know what my managers were doing" defense stop working for CEOs in the court of public opinion? If your name is on the gate, do you ultimately own everything that happens behind it?
You've been listening to Starscope Report, where we uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.